Now let's continue in this metin, this text, this classical text of Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar by the Imam Abu Hanifa. What we learned is strong saying is that this metin is by his dictation, not by his writing it by his own hand. And so the author says, and that's not unique to Abu Hanifa, the scholars do that sometimes. Sometimes their students actually compile their lessons in some series of lessons and make that a book. And they will attribute it to that sheikh. They'll say this is his authoring. That's valid to the scholars. It's not a condition that he writes it with his own hand. He said, may Allah have mercy upon him, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ خَالِقًا قَبْلَ أَن يَخْلُقَ. And Allah was creator before he created. It means the name creator was applicable to him before there was any created thing. قبل أن يخلق, meaning before there was a created thing that was related to his act of creating. He was an eternity creator, and he was an eternity attributed with creating. Even if there wasn't a created thing related to his act of creating, he still had the attribute of creating, which is called khalq or takhliq or other names. We talked about that before. So here there's some repetition because Abu Hanifa mentioned this already. This meaning. You remember what At-Tahawi said, لَيْسَ بَعْدَ خَلْقِ الْخَلْقِ اسْتَفَادَ اسْمَ الْخَالِقِ. It was not after creating the creation did he deserve the name of the creator, meaning he deserved the name of the creator in eternity with no beginning, even if there wasn't a created thing related to his act of creating. So that's contrary to the way of the Ash'aris. Because they say his being creator in eternity means he had the power to create. And that's not exactly what the Hanafis are saying. We've talked about that before, so we don't have to go all the way back into it. You can review. But for sure, he is called Khaliq in eternity, for sure. Because he told us in the Quran that he's Khaliq. In the Quran, the revealed expressions of the Quran refer to God's eternal speech. So if we are told in the revealed expressions that he is Al-Khaliq, the creator, and these revealed wordings refer to an eternal speech, then it means that he was an eternity creator. He was in eternity named creator. With this word, I'm saying creator or khaliq. These are created words that refer to something that's not created. His names are not created. Like his attributes are not created. When we say, for example, he has the attribute of power. He has an attribute called power. He had power in eternity. Doesn't mean the word power is eternal. Rather, he has an attribute, an uncreated attribute. And this uncreated attribute, there's a word that refers to it, which is power or qudra in Arabic. And he has an uncreated name. And this uncreated name, there's a word, a created word that refers to it, which is Al-Khaliq, the creator. So he was Al-Khaliq in eternity, as proven by the text of the Quran, merely calling him Al-Khaliq. Then, according to the Maturidis, therefore, yani the Hanafis, therefore, if he is Al-Khaliq in eternity, and actually you Ash'aris can't disagree with that, then he's attributed with what makes this name valid, which is khalq. So he's attributed with al-khalq in eternity, creating. Even if there was not a makhluk, a creation, a created thing that is. And then Abu Hanifa said, وَرَازِقًا قَبْلَ أَن يَرْزُقُ. And he was provider before providing. Before there was any created thing related to his act of providing. And so according to the Maturidis, he is a raziq in eternity. So he has an attribute that makes this description valid in eternity, and that attribute is called ar-razq. Ar-razq, the fatha on the ra, not rizq with the kasra. Razq is his eternal attribute, according to the Hanafis. It's not his will, which is an eternal attribute of his, as some others would say. That goes back to his will or goes back to his power.
Yes. Could you repeat that whole thing that you just said about will?
Say that again, please.
Could you repeat that whole thing that you just said about will?
Yeah.
Will?
Yeah. I mean, Wafiq.
I can't follow along because. All right, thanks, Bob.
I mean, Wafiq. Yeah, so Allah Ta'ala, what did Abu Hanifa say here? He said, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ خَالِقًا قَبْلَ أَنْ يَخْلُقْ وَرَازِقًا قَبْلَ أَنْ يَرْزُقْ. So it means he had the name of the creator before there was a created thing related to his attribute of creating. And he had the name of the provider before there was a created thing related to his attribute of providing. What that means is, it's not a condition that there was a created thing for him to have the name Al-Khaliq and the attribute of creating. And it's not a condition that there was a created thing for him to have the name of Raziq and the attribute of providing, Raziq. And this attribute of creating, it is an attribute in eternity. And this attribute of providing, Razq, it is an attribute in eternity of his. That's the Hanafi way, and that's strong way. As opposed to saying that his attribute of creating refers to his power. That's the Ash'ari way. The Ash'aris, they said his attribute of creating refers to his power. The Hanafis and the Maturidis, they say no. His attribute of creating refers to it is his attribute. Creating is his attribute, and power is another attribute. Creating is an attribute in eternity, even if there wasn't a created thing. And power is an attribute of God in eternity. And providing is an attribute of God in eternity. That's what the Maturidis and the Hanafis say. The Ash'aris say he is Khaliq, creator. They say not by an attribute called creating, but by an attribute called Qudra, power. So, according to the Maturidis, and our Sheikh supports what they say, that's not stronger. And he is Raziq, a provider, uh, by an attribute in eternity called Razq. That's an attribute in eternity. Not by an attribute called power or an attribute called will. He's not called Raziq because of an attribute called power or an attribute called will. He's called Razik, provider, because of an attribute called providing. Yeah, Razik. Is that clear?
Yeah, now. MashaAllah.
Amin Wafiq. Then Abu Hanifa said, Wallahu ta'ala yura fil akhirah. And God, exalted is He, shall be seen in the afterlife. وَيَرَاهُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَهُمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. And the believers will see Him while they are in the garden. Yani, only the believers, exclusively. Seeing God is for the believers exclusively, not for anyone else. As for hearing God's speech, that's not only for believers. All the creations will hear the speech of God on Resurrection Day. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, ما منكم من أحد إلا سيكلمه ربه يوم القيامة. There is not one of you but that his Lord shall speak to him on Resurrection Day. So that's as far as hearing the speech of God. All the people, Muslims and non-Muslims, will hear the speech of God on Resurrection Day. But when it comes to seeing God, only the believers will see God in the afterlife. So Abu Hanifa is saying, وَيَرَاهُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَهُمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. And the believers will see him while they are in paradise. But he's not in paradise. He exists without being in any place. They will be in paradise seeing him without him being in paradise. They will be in paradise seeing him without him being in any place. بِأَعْيُنِ رُؤُوسِهِمْ. With the eyes of their heads they see him. But they don't have to look into any direction. Whatever direction someone would be facing in the garden, all throughout the garden, that very wide, vast garden, with believers doing whatever they do. Any believer who is seeing his Lord while they're in whatever direction he's in, he would see his Lord, and he won't see his Lord in the direction he's facing. Meaning, he's facing a direction, and he sees his Lord, but his Lord is not in that direction. And he's not in another direction. He's not in any direction. They see their Lord without him being in any direction. They see God without him being in any particular direction. Although they will be facing a direction. So that means they see God not like anything else. Not like seeing anything else. Because everything else is in a direction. So you're going to turn and look at it. They see him with the eyes of their heads. That means they really see him literally. With the eyes. The eyes of their heads means the eyes that are in their faces. بلا تشبيه ولا كيفية ولا جهة. Without comparison. And they see God without God having any comparison to anything. Wala kayfiyah, and without modality. That means without a manner of being, without being some way or another way. They don't see God one way or another way. He's not big, he's not small, he's not up, he's not down, he's not moving, he's not still, he's not inside, he's not outside, he's not connected to something, he's not disconnected from something. They will see him without him having any way about him. Wala jiha, and they see him not in a direction. That's according to some copies of Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar here, wala jiha. And according to some copies, he said, wala kamiyah, and without dimensions. They see him without dimensions. No length, no width, no depth.
Hey, Sheikh, did you just say that Did you just say that they will see Allah without any way about Him?
Yes.
Okay. What, what does way? What does way mean?
Way
Way
means mode.
means mode.
Yes.
Like what?
Like
What do you mean?
having a color or shape or etc. Yani without any created description is what it means.
Is how and way related?
Yes. They mean the same thing here. Because you would say, how is it? Or you might say, what way is it? So it means the same thing. وَلَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ خَلْقِهِ مَسَافَةٌ. And there will not be between him and his creation any distance. So that's actually explicit statement that means Allah exists without a place. وَلَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ خَلْقِهِ مَسَافَةٌ. There will not be between God and his creations any distance when they see him. They see him without him being close or far. Only thing that's going to prevent a person from understanding this is trying to imagine what is being said here. You cannot imagine it. It's not that it doesn't make sense, it's fine. Sensibly, it's fine, but you can't imagine it. So we're saying you will see the one who's not a picture. So then someone will say, how's that? How could you see someone who's not a picture? So you say to him, see, God is not like the creation. You can't imagine what's being said here. There's some people, their mind's so weak that they won't accept. They say, no, I don't believe you can see something that's not a picture. So that's a person who cannot think beyond his imagination. Then the Imam said, وَالْإِيمَانُ هُوَ الْإِقْرَارُ وَالتَّصْدِيقُ. And faith is the confession and the verification. Al-Iqrar, it means confession. That means uh, admission. That means to say something, to admit to something. And at tasdeeq, I said verification. That means deeming true. Faith is the confession and the verification. So the confession is outward. That's what you do with your tongue. And the verification is inward. That's what you do with your heart. وَإِيمَانُ أَهْلِ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَا يَزِيدُ وَلَا يَنْقُصُ. Here there needs to be a space here between Yazid and Wala. La Yazid Wala Yankus. And the faith of the people of the sky and of the earth. That means the angels and the humans and genies. Does not increase nor decrease. Yes, what this means is like what he says right after. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ مُسْتَوُونَ فِي الْإِيمَانِ. And all believers are equal in faith. What is he saying here? He's saying there's something that has a reality. This thing that has a reality, we're going to call it Iman, faith. That's what the religion calls it. It's not our choice here. The religion calls this reality Iman, faith, or belief if you want. And Abu Hanifa is saying this reality, it is what it is. So it's not going to be more than what it is. It's not going to be less than what it is. It is, as they say, what it is. It's Iman, it's faith. It's the attribute that would make someone a mu'min, a believer. So anyone who's a believer has this attribute of belief. So then, same attribute. Yeah, same thing. So then it's equal for all of them, even the prophets and even the angels. According to this, the lowest, most sinful Muslim, the most sinful Muslim has faith like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best, very best Muslim. So that's the way the Hanafis talk. This is how Abu Hanifa talked, and the Hanafis copied him here. The Maturidis, they copied him in this talk. And what most of the scholars say, though, is that faith does increase and decrease. Here, Abu Hanifa said, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ مُسْتَوُونَ فِي الْإِيمَانِ وَالتَّوْحِيدِ. The believers are equal in faith and in monotheism. So that helps you understand how he deems faith to be unwavering and the same amongst all of them. Like the monotheism. Yani, he's saying, we believe in God like the Prophet believes in God, and like the angels believe in God. We believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam like he believes in himself, and like the angels believe in him. So they're saying this does not vary here. It does not fluctuate. He said, متفاضلون في الأعمال, but they are varying in deeds. Some of them have more deeds than others. والإسلام هو التسليم والانقياد لأوامر الله تعالى. And Islam is yielding and submission to the commands of God. Exalted is He. So what an appropriate name for the religion. Islam, submission, giving up. Can't be stubborn. Must humble yourself to the commands of your Lord. You don't say, I'm going to do what I want to do. And you don't say, why would God command me to do something? Rather, you do what God commands you to do. If anything, you say, how do you prove that this is what God commanded? But you don't say, well, why would God command me to do that? So right there, if that's someone's position, then yeah, and he's insolent. But he could say, what's your proof that God commands me to do that? Now he wants to be accurate. Yani, the meaning is, give me the proof and I will accept. If that's his position. Give me the proof that this is what God commands, and I will accept and I will obey without any lip. Then that's a different thing. Don't say, I don't see why God would make this forbidden. I don't see why God would make this obligatory. It's not your job to see why he did. It's your job to know that if he did, you got to do it. If you claim you believe in God. So what an appropriate name for this religion, this correct religion, Al-Islam, submission, yielding. That's going to be submission by one's will here, submission by his will, his choice. As part of your test, you need to choose to obey your Lord based on evidence. If someone says, well, why God didn't send some angels down right now so we can know? The answer is because you're supposed to believe by evidence. That's your test now in this life. But in the afterlife, everyone will believe because they're going to see paradise and hell with their own eyes. That's called believing by necessity. If you saw heaven and hell with your own eyes, and you saw the angels with your own eyes, then you're going to believe. Uh, and that's going to be the case of all the people in the afterlife. Even the people who died not as Muslims in the afterlife, they're going to actually have the right belief because they're going to see it. But it's not going to be accepted from them because they didn't choose it before they died. They didn't believe it until they saw it. So that's not going to be accepted from them. And that's the difference between the believer and the disbeliever. In this life, the believer is believing by the evidence, not by seeing heaven and hell and angels. And then in the next life, he will already have been believing. Then he's going to see what he was believing in. It's going to be verified by seeing it. It's not going to be that now he's ready to accept, but in the afterlife, then the one who didn't believe in this life, he's going to be forced to believe because he sees it. But then it's going to be too late for it to be accepted. Abu Hanifa said, فَفِي طَرِيقِ اللُّغَةِ فَرْقٌ بَيْنَ الْإِيمَانِ وَالْإِسْلَامِ. And so, by way of the language, there's a difference between Iman, faith or belief, and Islam, yielding and submission. Because faith and belief mean something different from yielding and submitting linguistically. Yielding and submitting means giving up, not being stubborn, giving up. ولكن لا يكون إيمان بلا إسلام ولا إسلام بلا إيمان. However, there will not be any faith without Islam, meaning no valid faith, no Iman. We don't say that the non-Muslim has Iman, rather he has i'tiqad. I'tiqad means conviction. He believes something. So non-Muslim has i'tiqad. He has a conviction. He believes in something. We don't say though he has iman, which means belief. He has a conviction. So what I'm saying is he lacks belief, but he has a conviction in something. The belief here means the right belief. So وَلَكِنْ لَا يَكُونُ إِيمَانٌ بِلَا إِسْلَامٍ. There won't be faith, iman, without Islam, submission. وَلَا إِسْلَامٌ بِلَا إِيمَانٍ. And there won't be any submission without faith. Yani won't be valid. Neither will be valid without the other. فَهُمَا كَالظَّهْرِ مَعَ الْبَطُنِ. And so they are both together like the back with the front. They are together like the back with the front. Meaning, if you had something that has a one surface that has the other surface too. You don't have something with only one surface doesn't have the other side, the back and the front, like a coin or a card, for example. Maybe you have a debit card. So, okay, you see one side of it. So there must be another side, right? There has to be. You can't separate it. You can never, yani. That's clear what I'm saying to you. So that's how Iman and Islam are. They are bound. متلازمان. والدين اسم واقع على الإيمان والإسلام والشرائع كلها. And this word deen is a name that refers to faith. And it refers to Islam, and it refers to all the sacred laws revealed to prophets. That's the deen. Deen. So usually we translate deen as religion. Deen does mean religion, yani. One of the meanings of the word deen is millah. Millah, religion. And the word deen has other meanings too. Like when Allah says, Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the day of Ad-Din. This doesn't mean the day of the religion, it means the day of recompense. Ad-Din is al-jaza. That's one of the meanings of the word deen. Jaza, payment or payback. Abu Hanifa said, rahimahullah, نعرف الله تعالى حق معرفته. We know God as he should be known, meaning we have fulfilled our obligation in learning about the attributes of God and learning about what must be attributed to God and what can't be attributed to God and what can be said about God, like creating something or not. We have fulfilled our obligation in this, and so we know him as he should be known. نعرف الله تعالى حق معرفته كما وصف نفسه, as he described himself. Yani, our knowledge about God complies with what he revealed about himself. وليس يقدر أحد أن يعبد الله تعالى حق عبادته. He says, however, and although we know Allah as he should be known, we believe in him properly and we have fulfilled our obligation in learning about that. But no one, Abu Hanifa says, no one is able to worship God, exalted is he, as he deserves to be worshipped. Meaning, if that's not good translation, meaning, uh, our worship of Allah Ta'ala is not the extent of what he's entitled to. Our worship of him is not the extent of what he is entitled to. He made some worship obligatory on us. 5 prayers throughout the day and the night, fasting the month of Ramadan, and other obligations. These worships we do and these obligations we fulfill, they are not the extent of what he is entitled to. كما هو أهل له, just as he is entitled to. So Abu Hanifa's statement is, وَلَيْسَ يَقْدِرُ أَحَدٌ أَنْ يَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى حَقَّ عِبَادَتِهِ كَمَا هُوَ أَهْلٌ لَهُ. So if I translate it as literally as I can, it comes out, there is no one who is able to worship Allah, exalted is he, as he deserves to be worshipped, as he is entitled to. لكنه يعبده بأمره كما أمر. Rather, what one does is he worships God according to God's command. Not that he worships God to the extent of what God is entitled to. No one is able to. Rather, he worships God according to what God commanded. 5 prayers throughout the day and night, performing purification and other acts of worship fasting, Ramadan, paying the zakats, making the hajj, and other acts of worship.
نعم. So, Sheikh,
Yes.
so would you say that the mind is essential, like very important in Islam? Because when you're talking about faith and uh, deducing what Iman is and believing and not seeing the angels, but you have to believe in it, that's using the mind, correct?
Yes, it is. And the mind is important. All throughout the Quran, Allah praises those who use their minds and dispraises those who do not.
Sure. Sure.
Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, ويستوي المؤمنون كلهم في المعرفة واليقين والتوكل والمحبة والرضا والخوف والرجاء والإيمان ويتفاوتون فيما دون الإيمان في ذلك كله. He says, so they are all equal as far as faith is concerned, in the sense that they all have firm belief. Even if you want to take the word firm out, in the sense that they all have the same belief. This is the meaning here. And the jazm, yani, the jazm that makes the belief valid. In the jazm, meaning that's the certitude that makes the belief valid, they all have the same. The jazm, yes, certainty. But do they all have the same jazm though? Uh, because jazm itself is something other than faith. Jazm itself is not faith. Faith is something that has its own meaning. Jazm has its own meaning. Jazm, which is the definitiveness. Because even according to this saying that their faith is the same, they are all the same in faith, that still doesn't deny that the quality of their faith varies. So they all fundamentally have the same faith, is what Abu Hanifa is saying, all believers. But he's not denying that the quality of one's faith would be more or better than the quality of another's faith. Wallahu alam. Let's stop there. I want to review this next sentence. Actually, do you have a question I can answer for you?
So during the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, if the minds were stronger back in those days, it's like, why did what would be the reason that some of those people didn't embrace Islam? They didn't use their mind properly.
Well, there's a difference between being intelligent and being guided in the first place. Person could be what someone might call a moron, but Allah guides him. And he's not so smart. And he's slow, but he's a believer. Another person could be, like an intellectual prodigy, but he won't become a Muslim because he's not guided. Guidance is different from intelligence. Intelligence is not going to guarantee a person's guidance.
Sure.
Wallahu ta'ala yahdi man yasha, and Allah guides whomever He wills. Wa yudillu man yasha, and He misguides whomever He wills. Yeah, he could be very intelligent, but he still have some stupidity though. He has some stupidity. That stupidity is what made him not accept the truth. But if you give him a math problem, he can solve a math problem without even using his fingers.
Strange.
Yeah, it's strange.
Of course, but that's what Allah will.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Because some people have a hawa, they have a desire. This desire is not a sexual desire. This desire is something that motivates a person to not take the truth because he likes blasphemy. Because some of them they like blasphemy, they like it, gives them a high or something, or it's a thrill. Uh,
So
and
his
he
desire
likes
was
the
stronger than
haram,
his mind.
and he likes the haram too. Would you say?
So his desire in this case was stronger than his mind.
Well, he didn't have enough willpower to resist this desire here. I can say that.
Yeah, no. Allah Ta'ala protect us. Allah yahfadana.
I mean, person needs to fight his self. Some people not used to fighting themselves. I mean, you need to. Yeah, some people they are smart enough to know the truth. They know the truth. It's clear for them. I've talked to people, more than one person, who would not become a Muslim. They said to me, "I know what you're saying is true." I talked to a cousin of mine. Cousin of mine said, "I know what you're saying is true." They said to me in my face, "I know what you're saying is true." Didn't become Muslims. And other people I talked to too. Some people.
We thank Allah for guidance.
Yeah, we thank Allah for guiding us. Subhanallah. And I talked to some people that they didn't become Muslims immediately, but they did after some time became Muslims. One guy when I was in high school, I talked to him. He said, let me think about it. He didn't become Muslim right away. And then he called me on the phone. He said, okay, I'm ready. Yeah, Kafir does not have Iman. That's right. He has i'tiqad. Yeah. Yeah, he has i'tiqad. The most important thing is the Arabic words here, not the English words. The Arabic words here are most relevant. He doesn't have Iman. Now, how are you going to translate Iman? Rather, he has i'tiqad. Now, how are you going to translate that? Because someone might translate i'tiqad as belief. Say, ماذا تعتقد? What do you believe? And someone might translate Iman as belief. So mostly what's important here is the Arabic words. But I usually say for i'tiqad, conviction. And I say for Iman, faith. That's with a capital F. Iman, faith with a capital F.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
What ayahs that one of the ayahs that you said Allah praises those who use their mind, not praise those who don't.
For example, the ayah that's in Surah Al-Mulk. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. They will say, had we listened and had we used our minds, we would not be inmates of the inferno. So that's dispraising people who don't use their minds. And for example, Allah says, وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. No one will take a lesson but the intellectuals. So that's praising those who use their minds.
What ayah is that one?
This one that I just recited is in Surah Al-Imran. That's ayah 3, Surah 3, ayah 7. The end of the surah. The end of the ayah.
Okay.
Could you repeat that in Arabic?
Yeah. وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. No one takes a lesson. No one takes heed. No one is lectured by what's in the ayah, but ulul albab, ay ashabul uqul, the intellectuals.
And that's the tafsir for Udul Albab.
Yeah, it doesn't mean just you can think only. It doesn't mean, for example, you just average guy who works in the supermarket putting food in people's bags. I mean, putting people's food in the bags.
And that's Surah Nuh. What ayah is that?
Not to say that if you work as a bag person in a supermarket that you're not an intellectual. You could be. That's ayah 10 of Surah Al-Mulk.
Okay, I got it. Barakallah for sure.
I mean, Wafiq. Yeah, I just wanted to paint the picture of someone he's not an intellectual. Yani, the ayah doesn't mean here only merely someone who can think. He can do math, for example. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Oh, I'm an intellectual.
And this ayah you said is in Al Imran.
Yeah, that's the ayah
So
about the muhkam and mutashabihat.
that's the ayah.
Yep. That's the end of the ayah.
No. No. So when someone says Alul Albab, that in Arabic that means they're not
Well, I never heard
intellectual.
anyone say it other than what's in the Quran. That's in the Quran. Ulul albab means ashabul uqul. So what help you understand what I'm saying to you is look at the topic of the ayahs in the first place. That ayah, you're not gonna understand that ayah if you don't have if you need some intellectual capacity. That's not just normal persons going to break that ayah apart. We didn't
Oh, yeah, that's
understand that.
true. Okay.
We didn't understand this ayah except by the master scholars breaking it down for us and making us understand it. 20 years of studying the ayah, still, yani, when I look into different sources and review things, still understanding things out of the ayah that didn't even understand 20 years ago. Same ayah.
MashaAllah.
Well, I'm gonna say, Sheikh, Barakallah Fiqh. This makes me want to use my mind even more. Yeah, Sheikh.
I mean, Wafiq.
Gives me more motivation. It definitely takes out the laziness.
Yeah, and don't forget that the knowledge is like, yani, hearing the knowledge is like implanting a seed. You need to let it blossom. It needs time to blossom. You said, can we say about a person is guided or misguided that it is by the eternal will and knowledge of God as he knows eternally what this person would choose or how he would use his mind and he willed according to that? Yes. Question. I have a question, please. A friend has converted to Islam. Alhamdulillah. His problem is he lives in a possessed house with his grandmother. He has been harmed when he was a child. He is 18 now. He's the only Muslim in the house. What's the best advice for him? Please, can he get rid of the jinn inside the house? Barakallahu feek. Uh, yeah. Let him learn how to recite things that repel the jinn, and then recite in his house, like Ayatul Kursi and the Adhan and some other words that are repulsive to the devil. That's easy answer there. Ameen Wafiq. Yes, let me see. You have some questions here. You said belief means tasdeeq. Yeah, no. Say iman means tasdeeq. Iman, this Arabic word means tasdeeq linguistically. Tasdeeq, which means deeming something true. Like when the sons of Yaqub said to him, and they were lying to him in his face, they said to him, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا. It means you don't believe us. So that's linguistic meaning of iman there. Tasdeeq, verifying.
Oh, verification. Yeah. Yeah.
And brother just asked a question. The creed of Ash-Shafi'i, would it be Ash'ari or Maturidi? Well, he's before Al-Ash'ari and before Al-Maturidi. So the Ash'ari creed is Shafi'i creed, and Maturidi creed is Hanafi creed. Ash'ari creed is Shafi'i and Maliki creed. And Maturidi creed is Hanafi creed. And the Hanbalis are Ash'aris. طيب. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.